was known that Wes Streeting had ambitions to be Prime Minister, but it was not known whether or not he had the numbers to mount a leadership challenge or indeed the appetite at this point. We now know that he does. So my channeling of Donald Rumsfeld so far massively overshadows my channeling of Brenda from Bristol. That's the lady who said, "Oh no, not another one." My original intention this morning, I was preparing some comments about how selflessly Wes Streeting had acted, because it seemed to me he had concluded he didn't have the numbers to mount a leadership bid, but was so convinced that a change at the top was needed that he was prepared to become, if you like, the stalking horse and potentially the whipping boy for the party by kicking the door open, the door to a challenge, even though he wasn't poised or minded to rush through it himself. That's what I was planning to do at 10 o'clock this morning. It's a good job that the plans that I have on this programme, at least by way of the introduction, are never... well, A, they're never written down, as you know. There's today's script, if you're watching on YouTube. And B, they can move on a sixpence. So I was going to start but cautiously praising Wes Streeting's selflessness and saying it's a very different act if it is undertaken in pursuit of any change. It's not undertaken for reasons of personal ambition. I was having actually precisely this conversation about 8 minutes after 10, so about 14 minutes ago with our political editor, Natasha Clark, about whether Wes Streeting was doing it in some sort of selfless sense because he was so keen for change, or whether he was kicking down a door that he intended to run through himself. And since we have come on air, we have discovered that he is intending to run through it himself.
I cannot vote for Andy Burnham.
Why not?
I hate Andy Burnham. He's a big backstabber. He's a big backstabber you will ever meet.
Who's he backstabbed?
He walked away. He backstabbed the Labour movement when he walked away from Westminster and left us with Jeremy Corbyn and all them idiots. And now, Keir Starmer's brought us all back to being in government, and this man thinks he can walk into Wigan seat. I'll tell you something now. He will not get in this.
Are you in Makerfield?
I live in Wigan. I'm in Makerfield.
Yeah.
I won't vote for him. And on Monday night, Josh Simmons came out and publicly slaughtered Keir Starmer. So
the disloyalty for you, this is a story of epic disloyalty.
I hate disloyalty. He threw his dummy out and run away. And I don't like that. And I've never voted for him.
Keir Starmer was elected with enemies and admirers alike, convinced that he was going to provide process-driven, competent management. He might not have stardust, he might not sparkle, he might not be a great orator or be possessed of whatever charisma actually is. He might not pursue cheap victories. He might not be the most exciting. All of those things. He might not like his intonation. That word popped up a lot, didn't it? But everybody accepted that he was going to be a paragon of competent, process-driven managerialism. And he's blown that. And that necessitates, in the mind of Wes Streeting and Andy Burnham and many others, that necessitates change. I am sympathetic to the seductive nature of stability. I don't want another fight. I'm tired and I'm bruised, you might say, as a voter. But that doesn't cancel out the possible necessity of change. That doesn't cancel out the widespread perception that Keir Starmer has already blown it. And that is why many people, perhaps, this morning are unhappy but resigned to the need for a leadership challenge.
With Andy Burnham, I don't think he left Westminster because he was having a hissy fit. Judging by what he's done as Mayor of Manchester, I think he left because he was frustrated.
He wanted to be in power. He wanted to, because politicians need to be in power to get things done. And that seemed to be missing sometimes from the whole Corbyn project, didn't it? That simple recognition of the importance of being in power.
But the thing about Andy Burnham is that he makes you think you matter.
Yeah. And that's gold dust. That's gold dust politically. Absolute gold dust.
Absolutely. The first meeting with him, there was 2 friends groups, and there were all the powers that be from TFGM and all the rest of it. He came in the room and he came and sat with us. It's things like, and the first thing you think is, oh, well, that's great. Yeah. And that's the first thing he did. So it gives you the impression that he's with you before anything even started. He does make you think as though he makes time for you. Now, once you get down in the Westminster bubble, I don't know how hamstrung he would be, but he always makes you feel as though you matter.
This is really interesting. This is really interesting, and you've actually second guessed the question I was about to ask you about whether it will translate. But obviously, we don't know, do we?
No.
But the question I'm asking is, why has he managed to butter so many parsnips up in Manchester, and it is on him. It is because of his particular set of skills. I don't know that there's a higher praise you can pay for a politician than that he cares and he seems to make time for you.
Andy Burnham is somebody who, one, I think his communication style is, talks like an actual human and like a normal person. And he's very easy in terms of listening to him and the way he speaks. And I think the most important thing that he's done is focused on things that matter to people every day. So, £2 bus fares wherever you're going, free bus passes for the 16 to 19-year-olds to get to college and stuff. These are things that mums don't have to fork out and therefore, it matters. It makes a difference to people's everyday lives. And I think that's what he's done in Manchester.
How do you feel about the fact that you voted him to be mayor and he's going to clear off then?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, on a selfish perspective, well, we really miss him, I think. He's done loads, and the transport system and all of the rest of it. All the things that he's done and introduced are great things, and and I hope they continue. But I think on a non-selfish basis, if he can replicate that across on the national stage, then hooray for Britain, I say.
Shivani Sharma is in Clacton, unlike Nigel Farage, who still hasn't done any constituency surgeries there, as far as I'm aware, because of the security concerns that he had, despite having received £5 million for security that wasn't for security, but was instead a reward for doing the politics that he did, having failed in the city and deciding that politics might offer him a better opportunity to achieve some sort of renown. What a wonderful country this is. Why are you in Clacton, Shivani?
£2 million is the other figure this morning, because that is what we've learnt Nigel Farage has made since he became an MP less than 2 years ago, in a lot of his outside work that he's done when he's not been representing constituents. Now, he says this is a non-story. He says there's nothing to see here. I'd say at least half of the people I spoke to said that they're furious about this. There was one woman, actually, I spoke to who said there's a Where's Wally poster of Nigel Farage down the road, or at least there had been at one point, because they haven't seen him in a really long time, and they felt that this story just adds insult to injury for them, because it shows, according to them, that his priorities are not in the right place.
He should have stood down, and there should have been basically a calm way of getting a new leader in that's got plenty of time to perform well before we go into the next election. All this.
I'm going to argue with you, Anne. Is that all right?
Yes, you can.
Well, but then you'd have the chaos fresh in the memory, because you can't no one can control the process. Either the incumbent or the challenger, no one can control the process. Even if Keir Starmer decided to go willingly, he wouldn't get to anoint a successor. That's your job as a party member, and it's highly unlikely that only one hat is going to land in that ring. So all of the things that are putting you off having it now will still be true a year or 18 months out from a general election, but they will be much fresher in the electorate's memory when that election comes around. I think I disagree with you about that.
Right. Who is to say that Andy Burnham or Wes Streeting or Rayner are going to make any difference? I mean, we're assuming that the great Andy Burnham comes in and changes everything. I don't think he can. I think that it will all go on the same as it always has.